Good morning. I'd like to take this time to open the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners meeting for December 4th, 2018 at 10:07 a.m. in Newport Richey. Would you please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance?
O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you read the roll call?
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Sorry, District 2. District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Here.
District 4, Commissioner Wells.
Here.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Here.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Here. At this time, we will move into public hearing, and the first item is P1.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, as you may recall, this item was continued. You had concluded public hearing at the first hearing. It was at, roughly in the procedural process, it was at applicant rebuttal. However, you also sent this out to a neighborhood meeting, and my understanding is staff has at least one additional condition for this project. So you may wish to reopen public comment for this hearing. If you do wish to reopen public comment, I would suggest that that occur before applicant rebuttal. Otherwise, you're going to be doing applicant rebuttal twice. And you can either open it fully up or limit it to the conditions that are being proposed by staff. That is up to the board's discretion. I think I would start with a small staff presentation on what they have done between the time that you've continued this matter and today. This comes to you in sort of a different procedural process than is normal.
Mr. Chairman, Barbara
yes,
Wilhite, for the applicant, 2523 Permit Place, Newport Richey, Florida, 34655. As a result of the two neighborhood meetings that were well attended, I have a PowerPoint presentation that I think would be helpful to run through before if you decide to open it back up for public comment. So I offer that. It's uploaded in the system. It's got aerials and it's got some pictures and some facts and things that you have a condensed version on your dais there. So I offer that. I think it would be helpful if you'd like me to run through that.
So you may wish then to basically rehold the hearing that you held in September, if that's the board's desire.
Well, what's the pleasure of the board?
I think it's a great idea.
Great idea. So we'll start, we'll reopen it for the hearing and let staff give us a brief presentation, and then Ms. Wilhite can come and give her presentation, and then we'll take public comment.
Good afternoon, good morning, Commissioners. Kyle Rowe at Planning and Development. I'm here to talk to you today about PDD 19CU05, a conditional use for ARV Assisted Living, Inc. The conditional use is for multifamily dwellings in a C2 general commercial district, approximately 144 units for a multifamily apartment complex. The parcel or future land use is designated as an ROR, which is retail, office, and
Just,
There it is.
No, it came out.
yeah.
it left
It
again.
was, and then it went away.
Thanks for fixing it, Commissioner Wall, we appreciate it.
I learned how to do this at the TDC meeting, so
Testing 1, 2.
Okay, it sounds like it's back.
Well, I just got mine.
Good?
Yep.
Let's reset then. So this is a conditional use for ARV Assisted Living, Inc. Its conditional use is for a multifamily dwelling unit in a C2 General Commercial District, approximately 144 units in a multifamily apartment complex. The parcel for the future land use is an ROR, which is a retail, office, and residential. The subject site is in the West Market area in the urban service area, and it's approximately 12.2 acres. As you can see, here's the location, is in the Western Market area. The site access has actually been updated with the conditional use. The site access now will be State Road 52 and La Madera Road, and not Nature Trail. The surrounding zone is a C2, MF1, and a PUD. The future land use is an ROR, a Res 6, and a Res 9. This is the site plan as of right now. And we're recommending approval for the conditional use for CU 1905. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes.
Proof to read in the record?
Okay, we have proof.
This notice was published in the Tampa Bay Times on September 28th, 2018.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Willott?
Mr. Chair, before you start, I think there's some ex parte forms that I'd like the board to receive and follow, because I think there were some ex parte meetings that occurred on this matter. Do we have those now? Does the board records have those?
We have 3 of them. My understanding is that the ones from the east side have not arrived. But my understanding is that all 5 commissioners have had ex parte communications with the applicant.
Right.
So, for the record.
From the east side, it was sent by courier, and I don't know why it didn't show up, so they're resending it.
Okay, well, we've now verbally disclosed them, so
Okay,
that's
all right.
sufficient. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Chair?
yes.
And as well as meeting with the applicant, I also attended both the public meetings that were held at Timber Oaks and Bear Creek.
those are okay.
All right.
Barbara Wellhite again for the applicant. Since our last meeting, we did, as I mentioned briefly, we did hold 2 neighborhood meetings, one with Timber Oaks and one with Bear Creek. So the application, just to kind of bring this into focus, the application is to add multifamily, MF2, as an additional permitted use for the property, which is about 12.14 acres. MF2 maximum height is 45 feet. MF2 allows a maximum of 18 dwelling units per acre, which is 218. So a lot of numbers got thrown out. You have 144, which was what the concept plan is. But I want to be clear that the way the conditions are written, it's a conditional use for MF2, and as written, it would allow for 218 units maximum. 144 is the concept plan of what the potential project would be, and that number is even in flux for the potential project. But this is about use and not a user. So I've tried to be clear about what we have before us, while also making available my client who has a certain type of project, if he moves forward with the property, of what his project is proposed to be. But this is what actually the application, and if you approve staff's recommendation and planning commission's recommendation, this is what you'd be approving. 45 feet maximum height, MF2, 218 units. It's 0.49 trips per dwelling unit. The average cost of the proposed units are about $175,000 each, and the project pays 100% of real property taxes, no homestead exemptions. This is the subject property. Does it have a pointer on it?
The bottom one is the highlight. If you hold it down, you have to hold it.
Well, oh, I'm not very good at this stuff. So in any event, we have the circle there, and that is the subject property. On the left-hand side is La Madera. On the right-hand side is Nature Trail. La Madera leads to Timber Oaks. Nature Trail leads to Bear Creek, and State Road 52 is the road you're seeing on the north there. Subject property, as staff has mentioned, is retail office residential, so that's your future land use. What you see for this area and this property, 0.60 FAR, pretty intense FAR, 24 dwelling units per acre, again, pretty dense. C2 is the zoning. Right now, the property has approval for the full range of commercial uses under the C2 zoning: convenience store with gas pumps, fast food, drive-through restaurants, shopping center, office. And so we're not changing the C2 zoning, so those uses will be permitted on the property. The application would allow multifamily development on the property in addition. So if it could be either commercially developed or it could be developed as multifamily. The C2 zoning today has a maximum height of 60 feet, a $250 square foot footprint at 50% lot coverage is allowed, about 1,250 parking spaces for that 250,000 square foot footprint. It's about 4.6 times more parking than multifamily, and 3.8 trips per 1,000 square feet for commercial use. It's approximately 8 times the trips per 1,000 square feet than a multifamily use. There's surrounding multifamily apartment projects, which I thought might be interesting to run through, so you can kind of get an idea of the area. Greencastle at Bayonet Point is immediately to the south. It's adjacent to both Timber Oaks and Bear Creek, directly adjacent. This property only abuts single-family residential 1 unit in Bear Creek. Affordable senior apartments. It was built in 1994. It's 4 stories. It's 4.51 acres, 80 units, 18 units per acre, which is that MF2 cap, which I just told you about, 18 units per acre. It's ROR land use MF2 zoning. So it's consistent with the zoning that's being requested here. This is the Greencastle project. It sits immediately south. As you can see, it's directly adjacent to Bear Creek residents, as well as across the street from Timber Oak residents. This is a picture, an image of Greencastle. I think it's painted a different color right now, but you can see it's a 4-story project directly adjacent to single-family residential. Arbor Villas is 380 feet south. It's, again, adjacent to Timber Oaks. It's the next one down, so when you have this subject property, then you have Greencastle, and then you have Arbor Villas. Arbor Villas adjacent to both Timber Oaks and Bear Creek. It's an affordable multifamily apartment project, although you wouldn't know that. It's built in 2003. It's 2 stories. It's 4.49 acres, approximately 80 units, 18 units per acre, ROR land use, MF2 zoning, consistent with what we're requesting. This is Arbor Villas, as I described, our subject property. Then you have Greencastle, then you have Arbor Villas, and you can see it's again directly adjacent and with kind of surrounded by the single-family projects of Timber Oaks and Bear Creek. This is an image that I took off the internet. Hudson Ridge is 600 feet from the Timber Oaks entrance going to the west. It's on State Road 52. It's 1,260 feet from the Bear Creek entrance. It's adjacent to Timber Oaks, directly adjacent to one of their portions of their project. It's affordable multifamily built in 2009, 3 stories, 15 units per acre, ROR land use, C2 zoning, conditional use for multifamily, exactly what we're applying for here. 2 bedrooms are going for $770, 3 bedrooms, $894. Per state records, they're at 97.2% occupancy. This is Hunter's Ridge. You'll see the subject property in red, and this is the Hunter's Ridge project. And this is what Hunter's Ridge looks like, built in 2009.
Hunter's Ridge or Hudson Ridge?
Hudson
I know
Ridge, thank you.
represent the other one, too.
You know what? Being here forever, I've said Hunter's Ridge so much in 22 years. Thank you. Hudson Ridge. This is what Hudson Ridge looks like after being built in 2009. Oops. So this is about use, not user. This project, the application is for multifamily. It is not for affordable multifamily. It is for multifamily. That being said, my client, if he moves forward, he would move forward with an affordable project. We try to be very transparent. I hope we can be civil, the pledge of civility here, and not accuse myself or my client of lying or misrepresenting or not being transparent, because I've heard a lot of that. Actually hurts me to hear that. So although this is about use and not about user, I want to be transparent that my client, if he moves forward, will have an affordable project like Hudson Ridge, would be the example of the quality of it, of what you see. The Hudson Ridge, what it shows is a market rate product, amenitized, you can see the amenities there, but with an affordable rent. So the folks that live there get to have market rate apartments, beautiful amenitized apartments with an affordable rent. It still is not the lowest rent, you know, those are pretty high rents up at the $900 mark per month. Affordable apartments, as I said, this may or may not be an affordable apartment. We're just going for use here. But apartments, all apartments, including affordable apartments, do background and criminal checks, credit checks, employment income verifications. So these folks are employed. For affordable projects, there's actually yearly and state site visits and auditing to make sure that the quality of the project is there, to make sure that they are income verifying, that they are charging the rents, maximum rents, that they're no more than the maximum rents they're allowed. What is a low-income housing tax credit program project? This is from your community development department. They are here. They are the experts. I've tried to summarize what I understand. They're certainly here to add or correct anything I might say. So the tax incentive to developers of affordable housing, the majority of them must be rent limited and provided to those earning 60% of the AMI. The rental properties are usually very high quality and are often mistaken for luxury apartment communities. Since its creation in the 1980s, LIH, the program, has created millions of affordable rental units. Pasco County currently has 25 multi-unit developments that were created through this program. And I would challenge any of you to try to figure out which 25 those are. Because two-bedroom affordable project, about $850 a month, that equates to a mortgage payment of like $158, a home value of $197. So when I mentioned these rents are affordable, they're still high relative to, you know, a payment you have to make every month. I go back to the presentation that was given about ALICE. There's 80,000 households that are in ALICE situation in Pasco County. Those are asset limited, income constrained, employed residents in our community, based on an average of 2.54 persons per household and a 525,000 and change population. That's about 38% of our population finds themselves where they're working every day as hard as they can for their families, but need a nice place and a good place to live. Medium income, I understand, in the submarket is approximately 37. The income for the affordable apartment tenants in the submarket is about 31,000. I did a quick review. Again, your staff are the experts on this. Your library technician starting pay is $1071. 31,000 year income is about $15,000 an hour. Certified nursing assistant is $9 to $16. The sheriff's office CPI case assignment clerk is $13.97. Your school crossing guard is $10. Your grocery store non-management associates making about $27,000 a year, and your assistant managers at a variety of your food restaurants, McDonald's, for example, here is making $14. So there's a lot of people at that income level, and they're just like the rest of us that work hard. I would just add that staff had mentioned regarding site access, you're going to hear traffic, and let me just preview that issue. We are okay. There was a concern by the Bear Creek residents about any trips on Nature Trail. It's not a signalized intersection. The signalized intersection's at La Madeira. So we have said we are okay with emergency access on Nature Trail. I say that with hesitation only because there's no access management analysis that's been done. And I always worry about unintended consequences and that we don't get it right. And I think Commissioner Starkey mentioned limiting that now, whether that's a good idea or not a good idea. But ultimately, it's the county that's going to decide the appropriate access for this project. We have frontage on State Road 52, La Madeira, signalized intersection, and on Nature Trail. So we're okay with emergency access only from a project perspective to Nature Trail, and that's what staff is saying, that there's a condition that can be put on that says that. We've also heard concern regarding traffic in Timber Oaks, people going through their community from 52 to Little or Little to 52. And so one of our thoughts was we could potentially restrict the left movements out. So if I'm leaving my apartment and I'm going out, I have to go right on La Madeira to 52. I can't go left into Timber Oaks. So those are things that we've thought of. Again, this is really an access management, your technical staff. We are not at that level of review where we have a site plan or an access management analysis that actually counts the number of trips, actually sets forth the distribution, comes up with the background traffic. So I wanted to preview that. We are willing to condition, to the extent staff supports something to deal with transportation, we're willing to because we heard about the traffic issues from both communities. That's probably the main thing that we heard, other than concerning about what type of project this could be. So with that, I will let you hear public comment. If you have any questions for myself or my clients, we are available.
All right, this time we'll take public comment, and our clerk will read the first names to come speak.
Mr. Chairman, this is a quasi-judicial hearing, and so the clerk would need to put the folks who want to speak under oath.
Okay.
So for those of you who want to speak on this topic, please stand and raise your right hand. Okay, does that look about 14? Because there's 14 signed up. All right. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God? I do. Okay, thank you. You may be seated.
Probably line up
Okay.
3 or 4 at a time.
Okay, I will call out the first few names. If you could line up in order, that would be wonderful. The first name I have is Sandy Mullins, following Elizabeth Grant, following Dale Thompson.
Do what?
I'm sorry.
That's not in the order you signed up.
It's not in the order it was signed up.
If you want
I'm
to
sorry. They're on the same line.
They're on the same line. Okay,
Sorry.
that's fine.
It confused me. So Sandy Mullins, Bud, don't know your last name, I can't read it. Maines, okay. Elizabeth Grant, and then Dale Thompson. If you could line up, and then as we get to the end, I'll call up some additional.
All right,
So, Ms.
first-
Mullins?
Ms. Mullins, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. Thank you for letting us come and speak with you today. At our last meeting,
Hold on a
Whoa,
second.
whoa.
Let's
Name
go
and
through
address.
the same procedure that we went through the
I
last time.
apologize.
Name,
My name is
address,
Sandy
and
Mullins.
whether you've been sworn.
I live at 8611 Gandy Lane in Port Richey at 34668.
And have you been sworn?
Yes, I have.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to give a report on our meeting that you all asked us to have with the developers. And this is simply a synopsis of what we've been dealing with and where we're going to proceed to from today. Bear Creek residents met with attorney Barbara Wilhite, representing the property owner, ARV Assisted Living in Louisville, and the developer, Jim Dial, of New Visions Communities, to learn about the proposed development at the parcel of land known as CU 1905. Mr. Dial intends to build 90 or 120 multi-family apartments. The apartments will be built in a cluster of 5 multi-story buildings, 3 to 4 stories tall each. The complex will also have a clubhouse, rental office, and swimming pool. There will be 2 parking spaces for each apartment, which will accommodate 180 to 240 cars. We do not have an exact number. The apartments will be funded by federal government tax dollars that are administered by the state of Florida. Mr. Dial stated that the apartments are not funded by HUD, but rather by the Internal Revenue Service. Even though he cited the HUD changes implemented by President Reagan in the 1980s as a source of funding. In reality, funding comes from HUD, and the IRS provides the tax credits. When asked about Section 8 housing, Mr. Dial at first said they, the developer, would only have to accept renters who walked into the rental office with a voucher in hand and and then went on to say that we should not worry about this because there's not any Section 8 money available. And we happen to know that that also is not true. In reality, there is Section 8 money that is available, and under government law, if an apartment is available, it must be given to a Section 8 renter. Is that my time?
No, you have one more minute.
Okay, thank you. In addition, Mr. Dial stated that even though he was getting federal tax dollars, he would have nothing to do with HUD in the operation of the apartments. In reality, federal law requires 20% of the apartments to be designated to those earning 50% below the average median gross income, and another 40% be designated to those who are earning 60%, below 60%. In addition, any unoccupied apartment must be given to a Section 8 recipient upon request. Mr. Dial previously stated in October, in a conversation with myself, that he had a commitment of $8 million in government funding and planned on selling the tax credits he would receive to a bank or insurance company and only have to be personally responsible for a smaller part of the total development budget. At the meeting on Saturday, Mr. Dial declined to comment for government funding. Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mames, state your name, address, and what that you've been sworn for the record.
My name is Donald Maines. I live at 11635 Nature Trail in the Bear Creek complex. I have been sworn in.
Okay.
Some of my concerns on this are, the attorney had mentioned that there's an affordable housing that was built in 2003 that you would look at and not even know it's affordable housing. That abuts the back of my property. Trust me, you know that it's affordable housing. There was a constant stream of people cutting between my house and my neighbor's house through the back of that complex to the point where I had to go and complain to the property management multiple times. They built a wooden fence there, which is now pretty much ripped down from people climbing over it. Since then, the crime rate in the Bear Creek neighborhood has skyrocketed, bicycle theft, automobile break-ins, just multiple things being stolen from people's porch. I can't believe for a second that that's simply coincidental. It began when the affordable housing apartments were built in 2003, and it has just skyrocketed since then. I don't see putting more affordable housing in the area being any type of remedy to that. It's simply going to exacerbate an already bad situation. We've heard today that they're looking for approval for 218 units. We've been told 144. At the meeting on Saturday, we've been told 90 plus units. So I'm not sure what that number is, but my heart tells me if they're looking for approval on 218, it's going to be a lot closer to that number than to the 90. The traffic impact on the roads in the Bear Creek neighborhood will be considerable. You're going to have many people pulling out onto 52 and immediately taking that right. The nature trail through to Schrader cut through is already very popular with everybody looking to avoid that light at 52 and Little. And as a result, those roads are trashed. I would hope that if indeed this project is approved, that there would be some allowance made by the builder to repave those roads to accommodate the additional traffic that the project is going to create. The roads are in terrible shape. You've had hearings on getting them repaved here in front of this commission in the past, and as yet that has not been done. So the increase in traffic on those is just, it's going to just annihilate those roads. Let's make no mistake, this is going to be affordable housing. There's going to be low-income people. With that is going to come an increased drug use, increased crime. You can look historically at affordable housing, and the two go hand in hand. I'm not saying that these are bad people that move in, but there tend to be bad people that move in addition to hardworking families working at the various places highlighted in the presentation. And look at that, 2 seconds to spare.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Grant?
That's me.
Okay, state your name, address, and that you've been sworn.
I'm in Costa Rica Drive in Timber Oaks.
And have you been sworn?
I'm sorry?
Have you been sworn?
Yeah, over there, yes.
You have to state it for the record. If it gets read back,
Yes.
we won't
The answer
know.
is yes. Thought you forgot, sorry.
I don't forget, but the record won't remember later.
Are we ready?
Okay.
We're ready.
Living in Florida for over 45 years, I have watched it grow. Pasco County was made up of orange groves and lots of marshland for water drainage. Our elected officials allowed builders to purchase property and no thought was given to water drainage. Just look at the subdivisions that flow, even the newer ones in Trinity. Again, no thought was given by the county of needing future roads for population growth. Unless you use Little Road and US 9 to travel south, you must drive through two-lane subdivisions. These subdivisions have stop signs, lights, and some speed bumps. It is my understanding that our elected officials are now planning on allowing the same thing as past residential builders. Come in, build as much units as they can, and give a thought to roads or traffic. No planning on an entrance exit into this development. La Madeira, which is also the entrance to Timber Oaks, plus other smaller communities and a few businesses, the builder plans on bringing the entrance exit onto La Madeira. As there is a light at the corner of La Madeira and SR 52, La Madeira, again, also leads the entrance of senior community Timber Oaks, which will give cars another way to get to different local roads in Pasco. Just think of the traffic congestion that Timber Oaks senior community will experience. Residents living in this community pay their monthly dues to take care of the common areas. The said road is Ponderosa Drive, which has lots of curves, plus homes' backyards face Ponderosa Drive. Cars speeding on Ponderosa Drive will crash into trees and homes, again, which line the street. Little old ladies or men walking their dogs, bikers, will be run over by the speeding cars. My advice to elected officials, start thinking of an entrance exit to this new development. Remove the light on SR 52 in Madeira and position it in the entrance exit to the new development. Also, an 8-foot fence around the entire proposed development. Afterthought, subdivision, Jasmine Lakes. Look at the speeding cars and accidents on this road. The cars crashing into Timber Oaks fences and homes which back up to Jasmine Drive. So you're all doing what you did before. You better think twice, is all I have to say. I'm sending this to the newspapers. Hopefully they will look into what's all going on. I'm disgusted with all of you.
They're here. All right, thank you.
Ma'am, are you Kathy Sweet? That's
No,
done-
Dale Thompson.
Okay.
Am I out of order?
No, you're not. Thank you. 3 people wrote their names on one line, so I just noticed that I missed Kathy Sweet. You can go ahead, Ms. Thompson, and then we will get to Kathy Sweet afterwards.
Okay. Dale Thompson, Hachita Drive, Timber Oaks subdivision, and yes, I was sworn in. I'd like to take my first minute to thank Mike and Jack, because the last meeting that we were at here, it was very obvious that they weren't even sure what was going on, just like us people, and they did put a stop to the meeting and have this one today and do some homework in between. Thank you both for that. Jack, I also want to apologize to you for the horrible way you were treated at our meeting when you came. That was terrible, and we are going to try to do something about that. Now, I don't want to repeat what everybody else has said. Everybody else's concerns are also a concern of mine. I want to add, when I moved into Timber Oaks, the golf course situation had not been settled yet. It's now settled. I'm already worried about the druggies that are going to be hanging out there, since it's not going to be fenced in, and it's not really going to be a park, but it's going to be a park-like setting. Now I'm worried that if you bring in more low-income housing people of any kind, I could live there myself. I'm not against them. But I know what's happened in the past in others. If you were putting in a nursing home, a senior citizen complex, anything like that where Pasco didn't have to worry about more crime, especially in my backyard. My home is not worth $175,000, but you're building $175,000 apartments that is going to be government funded or something. There's not enough well-paying jobs in Pasco County. You all know that. Jack, I'm glad you live in Pasco County. That's one of the reasons why I appreciate you, and I believe you do want to make it a better place. You don't want where you live. Where you live is right across the street. So I know there's a lot you probably can't say or won't say, but I don't think that this is going to help Pasco at all. I think if anything, the areas of Beacon Woods and Bear Creek and Timber Oaks are really going to go downhill. And is that me?
One more minute.
Okay. My home right now went from when I bought it, believe it or not, when everything went down, I paid $34,000. Right now it's about $130,000 and the houses are selling within a week in there. If this goes up, I'm afraid I'll be sitting on my house when I'm ready to move. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Sweet. I live on Honeybee Lane. Please don't let the name fool you like I told you before. I've lived on Honeybee Lane since 1981. That was my uncle's home, and I've taken over since he passed away 7 years ago. Yes, I have been sworn in. Thank you very much. Jack, again, I apologize for what happened, but thank you for showing up and coming. Mr. Moore, I want to thank you as well as Jack for making this meeting possible again on a different day at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm only going to do some bullet points because my feelings kind of resonate with everyone else's. My bullet points are, we would like, if and when this happens, if it is built, we would really like an 8-foot wall, a concrete wall. We would like to maintain the lawn outside of the premises because it is not maintained now. Bear Creek, the people, Sandy and them pay for this maintenance outside that residence right now. If we didn't, the grass would be sky high. Some of the neighbors cut the trees down themselves. We don't ask anyone else, the builder, or not the builder, but the person that owns the property. So we maintain it ourselves. The other thing is we need some more lights put in at the entrance. If you're going to make this a residential area, we would like more lights when you enter to the Bear Creek area. We also want the paving of Nature's Trail and Schrader Road paved by you people, because it's like it is going to be used. It's literally going to be either they're going to go through Nature's Trail, they're going to go through our residence to get to the school, to Little Road, or they're going to turn around and go over to Timber Oaks. It's a given. It's a given. We don't have that luxury. So we do need our roads paved, especially Nature's Trail and Schrader Road, which are really bad, but so is Bear Creek, and we would really appreciate to have all of the roads in Bear Creek paved. The other thing is, the buyer and the seller, please help pay, if you possibly could, for maybe some security lights on the Bear Creek entrance. I don't know if that's a possibility. We've talked about it. We've talked about us residents, getting together and paying for it ourselves. But if they could help us with something like that and put up some security lights at that entrance, it would be wonderful. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you've done. And again, I apologize for what happened to you the other night. Thank you, and
Thank you for your comments.
All right. Could the following people line up? Pat Mora. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly. It's hard to read. Is it Chris Dabrowski?
Yes.
Okay. Please step up next. Paul Stearns. And then I have a question. Suzanne Green put Galen Wilson project. Are you here to speak to that item, this item, or is it different?
Yeah, just for clarification.
Wait, they have to hear from the mic. Are you here to talk about this topic?
Usually in the beginning and the opening of the sessions, there's a general.
We can't,
We
the
don't
record.
have that
There's
today.
no public comment
No
today.
public comment today on any other
This is a
item.
special meeting.
So you can't comment on public.
No, that's just,
If only
this is
about this
just
item.
item
This
only.
is a public hearing on this project.
Okay, I was told otherwise. So,
Well, it's not, I'm sorry.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Can I go now?
Somebody's got their hand raised.
My name is Patricia Mauer. I've been sworn in. I'm at 3215 San Felipe Court, Timber Oaks. The problem we're having at Timber Oaks would be the traffic coming through. We can't accommodate any more traffic with school buses, tractor trailers, and everything else that this housing project is going to bring to our community. We're retired people. We don't need this in our community. We pay our taxes. We went to one of the meetings and we suggested that they put a retired village, 55 and over, like we had before over there before it was taken down. They said they weren't allowed to do that because the owner of the property will not allow it. I don't understand that, and I would like them to comment on that to you guys also. because I never heard of such a thing in my life, that if you could sell a piece of property and tell somebody what they could put on it. If you sell a piece of property, you sell it. End of story. I don't see why we need another affordable housing in Pasco County. I think we have enough affordable housing for right now in Pasco County. How much more do we have to do to take up the slack for other counties around us? How many more people do we have to bring to Pasco County for affordable housing? We need jobs in Pasco County, not affordable housing. Get them jobs first before you worry about their housing. And we have to do something about the traffic. If they move that, if they come into La Mirada, where is the traffic going to go? When they come out of there and they make a left-hand turn, they'll be going down Ponderosa Boulevard. How are they going to go down Ponderosa Boulevard? How could you stop them from going down Ponderosa? That's what I want to know. And then how many units are going to be there? It's going to be 200 and something, 140, 90. Every time we have a meeting with them, it's a different number of apartments that's going to be put up there. So as of today, we still don't know. And we still don't know why you can't put senior citizens there instead of affordable housing for people that half of them are on welfare, half of them are on Social Security because they don't work, because they're sick, they have a backache, or whatever. That's what we have in this county. Everybody knows it. But I'd like some of those questions answered. Where's the traffic going to go? And why can't we have senior housing there instead of affordable housing for more families and more schools, impact on our schools and our roads, school buses and everything. We can't even get school bus drivers. That's all they see. They're forever hiring because they can't get anybody to drive a school bus. And they're going to put more kids in there? When does it stop? When do we say we have enough? We don't need any more. Is anybody going to do anything about it? We'd like to know today.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
For the record, I want to just state, I believe that was Pat Mora that just spoke. I didn't hear the name on the record.
Is that your name?
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Chris Dabrowski, 8114 Pasadena Drive, Port Richey and Timber Oaks.
And ma'am, have you been sworn?
Yes, I've been sworn.
Okay, thank you.
First, I don't know who put it in the Suncoast Time. You advertised our stormwater project as a park. And this project is not a park or going to be a park. It's a stormwater project. Because of this, if you put family units in this area proposed, kids are going to be bringing their BMX bikes and motorcycles and everything else and be running through Timber Oaks stormwater project with these items, let alone the crime and everything else. Yes, I am for a wall, 8 foot around this development. You haven't proposed traffic pattern, and now it looks like Bear Creek gets out of it and we get stuck with it. We don't need any more traffic on our roads. A little point, Hudson Ridge does not exit into Timber Oaks. It exits out on 52. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Paul Stearns, 8141 Braddock Circle, Port Richey. I have been sworn in,
Thank you.
and I didn't have a prepared statement like the others do, so being an old man, I might get a little bit confused. But Mr. Mariano, I want to thank you for coming to our meeting the other day. It's the first time I don't usually attend the meetings, but I did because of this particular project. I moved to Florida, Timber Oaks. It's a deed restricted 55 and older community. And basically, it's my hope, and I think there's a lot of other residents the same way. We want to live there in peace and quiet because we're waiting to go into a nursing home. Okay. And, you know, it's one step that I I don't know, I really love it down where I'm living. But my back part of my condo faces Ponderosa, and being a retired cop out of New York, I would like to put the uniform back on and throw some spikes out on the road because the traffic is getting horrendous. I've been run off the road. I have my grandkids coming to visit. When they play out in the yard, we have to, protect them like we would a dog that would get loose, because a 2-year-old just goes wherever he wants to. More units up there is going to create, and it's been said many times before, it's going to be a thoroughfare from 52 to Little or vice versa. And like I said, I've been run off the road. I see the speeders. If we can get this project to strictly go out into 52 and not come down La Madeira to Ponderosa, would be a big help if that kind of a restriction could be put on there. The other thing is, it'd be nice to see senior housing in there. There's a lot more people from the north. Maybe you don't want us Yankees, I don't know. I love it down here, and my friends want to come. And if you could put in more senior housing, they'd sell very fast, or be not rented out, but sell as condos. And I just want to be surrounded by other people who are in the same position as me. We want to just live a quiet life. We don't want the things. And like I said, I'm a former cop. I know what a lot of this stuff brings. And some of it may be exaggerated, but on the other hand, there's going to be a lot of problems associated with low-income housing. And I hope the board can take that into consideration. And if it does happen, put it out onto 52 so that it doesn't come by my property. And a lot of others. I'm not the only one that backs up to 52. So that's all I got to say. And if I repeated myself, I'm sorry. Anyway.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much, board.
Yes, sir.
All right, the following people could line up: Suzanne Tussel or Tausel. Did I say that wrong? Okay. Jeanette Schmidt, Nanette Hale, Rick Agler. Ms. Tausel, you're up. I hope I got that correct. We'll find out.
I think so.
My name is Susan Toussaint. I live on Zane Lane in Bear Creek, and I have been sworn in. The things I want to say are
Could you bend your microphone down so we can pick you up?
If you
It's
bend
just
it
this
like
little
this
tip.
right here, that way.
There you go. Thank you.
Yep.
There are many subsidized apartments in the area. The people that used to live across the street from me on Zane Lane went through some hardships, and they moved into the Hudson Ridge. And Hudson Ridge started out a beautiful community. They all do. And they ended up having to bide their time because they wanted to get out. There was so much crime. There was a lot of gangs. They'd hang out in their stairwells. There was drugs, and they were concerned about their daughter. My daughter was living in Weston Oaks, which is in the southern end, and that started out beautiful. She moved in when it first got built, and she got pregnant, and she couldn't wait to get out because the crime level started going up. And she moved into a house that's near Congress and Ridge Road. There are 2 apartment complexes there, and I don't know the name of the one, but it is government subsidized. The crime rate is huge. It has blossomed out into the development around Embassy. The whole community in that area has started going down. She lives not too far from the complex, but it just spreads. And it's not that I would not want these people to have a place to live or something like that, because I was a single mom and raised my kids too by myself. But by the same token, there are people that move in. The community where we live, my dad lives in Timber Oaks, I live in Bear Creek. We can't handle any more traffic. There's been accidents repeatedly at that intersection at La Madeira and 52. There is no way that you could possibly divert that traffic. They've moved the bus stop so that it sits in between La Madeira and Nature Trail now, so you'd have to remove that again. Not that that would be a really big deal, but by the same token, you just got all these people that just travel through all these communities. And my father lives over there. It's a peaceful, quiet community in Timber Oaks, and I understand what they're saying because it won't be that way anymore. And the retired people worked hard to get that. So, and we work hard for ours as well. There's people that come in and do trick-or-treating on Halloween, and they come to our neighborhood because they know it's safe. It won't stay that way. So I'd just like for this to all be considered. It could be a business. It could be a really nice business right there on the corner. Be cool if somebody could put their name on a park there, but anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have been sworn in. My name is Jeanette Schmidt. I live at 8515 Honeybee Lane in Bear Creek, Fort Ritchie. I have many concerns. First of all, no matter how you route the traffic, it's coming through Bear Creek. You could put an opening on 52, they're going through Bear Creek. They already go through Bear Creek. There's no stop to it. Now, you're going to make it right turn only off of La Madeira, straight through Bear Creek. The crime in Bear Creek is outrageous. There's not enough policemen in this county to stop what is going on. The drugs, the theft, the homelessness, there's no end to it. You call a sheriff for anything, it'll take them an hour to get there. I have called. I watched my house up the street get broken into. They sent them to Wesley Chapel. Nobody from the sheriff's department ever showed up to that subdivision, or they came to me, they called me on the phone and asked me who did it. Do you think I'm going to go run around chasing criminals? It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. The schools, there's an impact on the schools, no matter how you look at it. I worked for 911, and I remember when Hudson Ridge went up, or whatever it's called, next to Winn-Dixie, there was nothing but crime. Nothing but crime, gangs. They were in there all night long in Winn-Dixie parking lot. I know of one occasion when the sheriff showed up, there was thousands of bullets on the ground, and the smoke was still going and not a person in sight. Nobody has ever been held accountable for it. We have crime. We have a meth house that was in our neighborhood. We've had traffic accidents. They tear through our neighborhood. They knock down our mailboxes. They crash into our cars. 3 cars, 4 mailboxes, 1 incident. They left the scene. 4 hours later, somebody showed up. Nothing was done, except for by us. As far as the front of the entrance of Bear Creek, that's county land. We already had a meeting with you people, and code enforcement said, that's county land. You don't take care of it. The gutters are filled with sand, the grass is high, and unless we do it ourselves, nothing gets done. I have called repeatedly to code enforcement. I have called the county. Nothing gets done. And all you do is come through our streets and repave, throw a little dirt here, a little tar here, nothing gets done. Our roads are a mess. State Road 52, the traffic, the speeding people on that road doing 70, 80 miles an hour, and there's not a cop. Don't call the cops, like they say, report a crime, because they're not coming. And don't call them because you're behind somebody that's doing speeding, because they're not coming. I went through this the other day. They're not coming. Don't follow them. If you don't follow them and get their license plate, how will you ever know? So I hung up, and they called me back. I said, are you going to do anything? No. And here we are. Are we going to get anything done?
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nanette Hell. I live at 11614 Salmon Drive in Port Richey, Florida, 34668 in Bear Creek. And Jack, I'd like to thank you for our meeting the other day and also apologize.
Have you been sworn?
I've been sworn.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I want to address some standards, which is traffic, parking, things in our neighborhood. I have 4 young grandchildren I'm raising, and the crime that comes into our neighborhood from 52 and then places, we've had things stolen. It's just, the traffic's my main concern. The schools are another concern. And there's a lot of problems with drainage in our neighborhood and our roads. How will this affect us? I'm not against a multifamily thing, but if you give people things for free, they don't tend to take care of them. If people have to work and earn things, they're going to take a lot better care of it. And I just don't think it's going to be a good thing. Most of my neighbors are seniors, and I don't think this is a good idea at all. If we could have condos, senior living, anything but more multifamily, it's just crime. It's crime, it's extra traffic, it's just not good for our neighborhood. So, thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's 3 after.
Good morning. I'm Rick Agler. I've been sworn. 10727 Footprint Lane, Timber Oaks, Port Richey. I've been either the vice president or president of the Timber Oaks for the last 4 years, and thank you for having our public meeting at Timber Oaks. I'm here both in my individual capacity and also to report on what we did, what happened there, as some of you personally know. Timber Oaks, as most of you, I think all of you know, and by now, we're 2,000 homes. Most of it senior citizens, about 3,700 adult individuals, plus some children, about 300 homes are children. We have found that there is absolutely no benefit to Timber Oaks from this project, none. But there is detriments. I think you know what the biggest one is by now, traffic. The traffic coming out on the La Madeira, you take, I'm sure I was an attorney, as most of you know probably, and you know, if you can put 200, I was also a landlord, if you can put 218 units in a place, you know, you're going to try to get up as close as you can and still reasonably do it. If you say there's 200, you know, you're talking at least 250 cars there then, because everybody today with cars being so cheap and stuff. And if you put that all out in La Madeira, it's going to be a mess, and the natural inclination is, of course, you go right down 52, but if you're going to go south, you're going to go left and come down through us. That is a huge, monstrous concern to us, every single individual in Timber Oaks there. The second item has been referred to a little bit. We now have a magnet, if you want to call it, a natural magnet. It's being developed through, thank you. I was chairman of that committee too, the golf course project, and we're getting in, and you know, I can't thank you enough for that project. Unfortunately, a little bit of detriment is going to be that it's kind of a natural draw for a lot of people, and that natural draw is because 78 acres of lakes and woods and cut lawn, I hope, and and like that. And that's going to, so we have a large concern. And, you know, getting back to this, and I only have part of a minute left, is this is a change they're asking for. Did our original people who did all the zoning planning and everything make a mistake? I don't think so. I know, in a way, it's not a change, it's an add-on, but it's still a change. I don't think we need that change. I think we need to stay with what we got, stay the course, and keep it. I don't want to argue low income versus other income. It's the amount and the traffic and stuff that's in there. And I just feel that is not needed. It's a big detriment to us. And, you know, are we doing a change to accommodate an individual corporation or whatever to put something in there? You know, what are we really accomplishing? Let's only change if we're going to accomplish something. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and I have the final 3 individuals that signed up. Mark, is it Rose Wasson? Okay, sorry. Joe Bowman and Bob, I can't read the last word. Is it Clued? Clued? Cued?
I believe you're trying to say Coy.
Probably Nature
Okay.
Trail?
Right.
Okay, you're the last.
Good morning. Thank you all for what you do.
I'm sorry,
My
sir.
name is Mark Rosenwasser. I am representing the Archdiocese of St. Petersburg, which includes Pasco County. They are the owners and operators of Arbor Villas Apartments, which is located adjacent to the property.
Your
Sir,
address, sir?
address and that you've been sworn for the record.
Oh, 3347 West Bears Avenue, Tampa 33618. I have been sworn.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, I want it known that the Archdiocese nor the property did not receive a notice to the first meeting. Otherwise, we would have been there as well. One of the at the top of Ms. Wilhite's letter, she says, if you are in opposition to the above stated application, you will need competent, substantial evidence presented at the hearing. One of the things she did not include in there is any specificity. There is no specificity in this plan. In fact, we've heard numbers of 218 units. We've heard units of 114 units. We've heard the number of 90 units. We've heard affordable. We've heard non-affordable. There is no specific site plan, which is absolutely customary when it comes to changing of zoning. The developer is clearly looking for you to permit this change, which would allow them a number of options. They want to keep the current zoning, but they want to have the option of additional zonings. It's like going into a candy store. You're giving them the right to pick whatever they want. And all those options are leaving my residents at Arbor Villas, and I would assume most of the people in this room here in the dark. We don't know what is going on at property. I'm not going to talk about a lot of the other issues because I don't particularly live in the area, but I can tell you about the traffic concerns. Our community empties out onto La Madera, which then empties out onto State Road 52. We have many children in our community. I've been told that our community is not one of the drug-related and those kind of problems. We control that pretty carefully. But I can tell you that there are a number of school buses that pick up our young children. And the amount of traffic and people rushing to get down La Madera to State Road 52 is such that I have observed them literally passing buses with flashing lights and the stop signs and the bars out because they need to get to work. I thank you for your time.
Excuse me, what was the name of your project?
Arbor Villas Apartments. It's an 80-unit affordable unit property right on La Madera.
And are you 100% occupied?
No, because of income restrictions, we are roughly 94% occupied.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That's pretty good.
My name is Joe Bowman. I live on Schrader Boulevard in Bear Creek. First,
Have you been sworn?
Been sworn?
Yes, I have been sworn. First, I'd like to say thank you to Jack for showing up to the meeting, and again, I apologize for kind of throwing you under the bus and calling you out. I would also like to say, that was a very well PowerPoint presentation. You kind of made our point for us that there is already enough affordable multi-home housing within the area. Additional multi-home housing is not needed. There is plenty of multi-home housing within the area. What we need and what you should be concentrating on is bringing business to the area so we can further develop West Pasco, kind of like Land O'Lakes is, and Wesley Chapel. That's what you should be focused on, not multi-housing. That development area should stay zoned exactly the way it is. No additional items are necessary. Again, I live on Schrader. Traffic is horrible. People speed on that road constantly. If you add another 244, which I think is what they said, then that will increase the traffic not only in Timber Oaks, but also in Bear Creek as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Gord. I live on Nature Trail. And
There's not much I want to say.
Sir, you have to state your specific
Oh,
address
I did,
and,
Nature Trail, 11634 Nature Trail, is that what you want?
yes, and that you've been sworn.
I'm not going to start getting all kind of mail, am I?
I don't know what
Okay,
the
listen,
public will do.
And whether or
Oh.
not you've been sworn, sir. That was the second thing the clerk asked you to do.
I didn't get sworn in. I do swear, but I didn't get sworn in.
Then you need to be sworn in.
So,
Before you can talk, I'll swear you in. Yes. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Okay, you may.
At my age, I got no reason to lie. The only thing I want to say is I want to apologize. I left that meeting Saturday night when Mr. Marinaro was there. I was embarrassed to see how the people were acting at that meeting. That was, I just couldn't get over it. Plus, I was missing my football games. But I don't know where this thing is going. But I will speak, and somebody mentioned a little earlier about paving Bear Creek. And I can remember standing here about a year and a half ago speaking against paving Bear Creek. And now all of a sudden people want Bear Creek paved. It's not that bad. But whatever they decide to do, Nature Trail should be repaved in Schrader between the developer and the county, right, splitting it 50-50, because there will be more traffic, and also several speed bumps. Other than that, I got nothing else to say. Okay, I think everybody else said it before me. Okay, so have a good day.
All right.
Hopefully this is all gonna work out. And I look at it, if it's gonna be for senior citizens, it's called growth. When I moved out here from New England in '94, Little Road was one lane, 52 was one lane. It's called growth. People are gonna have a place to live. Seriously, you know? And if they're gonna build a nice apartment that's averages $175,000, maybe you're giving people with little income or small income a reason to say, listen, my life is getting better. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
That's it. That's all I've signed up.
Okay. You can't speak from the audience, I'm sorry.
So you need to call for if anybody has.
If anybody else that has
Hasn't
not
spoken.
signed up and not spoken would like to speak at this time for this item, please come forward. And when you get here, we need your name and address, and if you've been sworn.
Frank Damba, 8211 San Felipe Court. I have not been sworn in. I just got back from out of town.
Okay.
We all know the deal.
Raise your right hand.
You
Gotta
need to
raise
be
your right
sworn in
hand.
before you can testify.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay.
Okay.
We all know the deal. We've seen these places. I moved out of Maryland because of one of these places. An 8-foot wall with lights is just a palette, becomes a canvas for gang spray painting and writing. It's not just the 200 cars, it's the people that visit them and come and go. It's the skateboards, it's the bicycles, it's the traffic, it's all of the above. It's the trash that comes with it. We all know this. I feel like it should be the other way around. The developers should be talking to you guys about why they should be putting this here, not the way the other round. I feel like you're not on our side. You're not on the Timber Oak side, you're on the developer's side. That's all I got. And we all vote.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Oh, that wasn't my.
My name's Kelly Green, and I live at 8708 Wolf Den Trail, and I have been sworn in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This morning I was late because I received a phone call from the, I believe he was the county attorney at about 9:30, stating that we would not be allowed to
You
speak.
may have talked to the chief assistant.
Oh,
You
chief,
didn't-
I'm sorry. It was a 2411 number. I don't know.
You're talking to him now.
But he had told me that we may not be allowed to speak today, so I frantically emailed everybody, like a little map of Bear Creek, where off of Schrader and Little Road cuts to Nature Trail. That is where our traffic flow comes from, like non-residents, and I really feel like if this project does happen, we're going to have a lot of additional cars in there. We already have a problem with people not stopping at the stop signs and whatnot. I personally do not want the speed bumps. Our first responders have asked us not to do that at one of our neighborhood watch meetings. And then, with all that said, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. When the application was put in, it's for 144 units. Then that changed to 120 units. Then Saturday night, they said it was 90 units. Now I'm hearing today 218 units. I'm not sure how that happens, but my issue with this application for conditional use is that there is no site plan. So we really don't know what is going to be built there. On Saturday night when we had that meeting, Mr. Dial had said that he is 99% sure he will not be the buyer of the property. Yet he is the one giving the presentation, the information on what will be put there. But if you're not going to buy it, how do you know what's going to be put there? So if you approve this application, anything can go there. Any multifamily unit, including worst case scenario, a halfway house for released felons. Anything can go there. Worst case scenario, I said. With that said, the required standards, a lot of these required standards have not been met. There is no site plan, there's no traffic study, so we can't really even discuss what the traffic flow would be like. We haven't had a traffic study. The signage, there's been no talk of signage. Again, no site plan, so we don't really know what that will be like, where anything is going to be put. How will it adversely affect the health and safety, welfare of our surrounding communities? Well, everybody has talked about that traffic, and in our small communities, we do have a lot of children walking, playing. We do have a lot of even retired people walking around playing. I mean, it will affect that because we have to watch out. That was me, right? Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you. Is anyone else that haven't spoke or at this time? Seeing no one. Ms. Wellite, you want to come back?
Well,
Or
do you have it? Does staff have anything, before Ms. Wilhite gets up, does staff have anything that they wish to put on the record?
no? Yes, sir.
Paige Bramlett, Pasco County Community Development. Good morning. I'd like to clarify some of the comments related to the need of affordable housing. There's a perception out there that obviously that the amount of affordable housing we have available in the county right now matches the need, and unfortunately that is not the case, and it's a nationwide issue. But currently, if you look at the criteria for affordable housing, normally it's 30% of a person's income that their rent or their house payment is 30% or below what their income is. And using that criteria, along with income eligibility, 80% of the metropolitan statistical area median income, approximately 40% of Pasco County's residents would qualify for affordable housing. So we do have a substantial need. We are working on it, but there is a need there, both for seniors and families. So just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
May I ask Paige a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
In my notes, someone brought up Section 8 housing. Can you speak to Section 8 housing?
Yeah, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, also known as Section 8, is a voucher program that allows people to rent properties, and essentially the voucher offsets the difference between 30%, that 30% cutoff, and the cost of the unit. There is a maximum allowed rent for those units, and that maximum allowed rent amount is dictated by the number of bedrooms of the property itself, and that's dictated by the zip code, which HUD determines in a report that they issue annually.
Okay.
So we don't have Section 8 compounds, but a person can go anywhere in the county in a house or?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
Right.
And the low-income housing tax credit program specifically, as you heard Ms. Wilhite stated, it incentivizes development through a tax credit to the developer. However, those rents are limited by a person's income eligibility and the population that lives in that unit that have to meet those income eligibility requirements. They have to be certified, and the rent is limited based on that.
And I have another question, but I'm not sure you're the right person to speak to it, and that's on halfway houses.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I have a little education on halfway houses, but I'm not sure if you do.
I do not.
So halfway houses are unregulated in the state of Florida, pretty much. in any house, in any neighborhood, can be a halfway house right now with 6 residents or less. Does anyone else know the rules on the halfway, 3/4 houses? Yeah, so
What you're referring to is a group housing situation that meets residential standards.
Right, they're called sober homes, halfway houses, 3/4 houses, but that,
You're preempted by the state of Florida from regulating them.
someone brought up that this place could be a place for halfway houses, and no.
But that's not what they're presenting to us today.
Well, I'm just saying a halfway house could be right down the street from you.
It could be, yeah.
Hopefully, we're going to work on that, but I think that's all my questions for Paige.
Any other
Anyone
questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Paige.
Staff, have anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nectarios Pitos with Planning and Development. Just to address some of the comments related to crime and the land use. Just from basic research, there is no significant correlation between crime and multifamily living per the University of Michigan.
Quiet, please.
In general, more people live in an area, and so the expectation is that there are more police calls in that area, but not all calls tend to be crime-centered, according to the University of Michigan. Many are wellness checks and other non-crime related reasons for calls.
Okay.
Well, the reason why I cite the University of Michigan is because it is a nationally renowned urban planning program at the University of Michigan. So generally, crime is proportional to total population and not specific to a land use or housing product.
Right.
Single-family development can carry similar proportions in crime relative to area population. Indeed, the drug epidemics tend to be examples of that. They don't distinguish between land uses. From a planning perspective, crime rates can be influenced to some degree through site design and specifically through the integration of land uses. Isolating land uses can often drive crime because it is perceived as separate and unwatched. So walls create spaces that are uncertain since you don't know what's on the other side of a wall. With that, I just wanted to make sure that everyone's clear on how crime impacts, what the crime impacts could be. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Moore?
not to get into debate, but I would dispute that. And the reason I say that is because in the future, I will bring somebody from the sheriff's office in here, and I've had discussions with the sheriff themselves, and he will explain to you that crime rates in Pasco County and multifamily housing units are higher. And we're talking about Pasco. So in the future, I'll have them, because I have some things coming up in reference to multifamily housing that we're going to be discussing. And I know we talked about we're going to discuss as a board too, but he will be coming in, or one of his representatives will come in so we can explain that in more detail for this county.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to talk about a broad range of subjects before I ask the developer a couple of questions.
If I could, Commissioner. Applicant hasn't had rebuttal yet.
Let them rebut first?
I'd rather you do applicant rebuttal and then move into commissioner's comments if that's where you're going.
Yeah. Ms. Wilhite?
Barbara Wilhite, for the applicant. Need, crime, and walls have been addressed. We will meet the land development code for buffers. Your code has already stated what the appropriate buffers are between single-family or multifamily to multifamily, so we will meet the code on that. I've tried to be very transparent about the how many units. I got the question Saturday night, and so I wanted to make sure that we were clear here that the zoning as proposed, because it's MF2 standards, in an RR land use would allow 18 units per acre, the same as Arbor Villas, and the same as Greencastle, and Hudson Ridge is at 15 units per acre. So it's all about the same density. Yes, our application, because they ask us, what are you proposing, said 144. Mr. Dial, if he was the one that developed this property, says his latest plans would be 90. So that's just factually how the unit issue stands. We background check these projects. They're criminal checks, as the representative of Arbor Villas told you. They control the situations. They try to control the drugs, control the crime pretty carefully. Maintain the lawn. I did appreciate when residents actually have things that they want to, talk about specifically. Maintain the lawn, yes. That's the benefit of developing property and taking it from vacant property that's got a chain link fence around it and developing it is, especially in a situation with multifamily where it's managed by one company, it will be uniformly maintained. More street lighting, that is something that is looked at site plan review. The county has a program regarding street lighting, and that's looked at site plan review. The paving of Nature Trail and Schrader, the county addresses those types of cut-through issues and who pays for what all the time. Cut-through and collector road or roads that act like collectors. So and there's a process for those residents to bring that process forward to the county. We are adjacent to Nature Trail, so anything that would have to be done, there would be an assessment for that property if there were an assessment for paving. Security lights, the project will have security lights. Traffic, again, the left turns out a lot. I mean, we've thought about this a lot, and I think you've had a couple speakers from Timber Oaks that said restricting the left turn movement, so I can't leave my apartment and turn left into Timber Oaks would be helpful. And so we're willing to put that condition on. We are also willing, subject to staff's approval, to say emergency access only on La Madeira because it's not signalized. And we also have a condition that limits construction traffic, existing condition now, that limits construction traffic to only La Madeira to 52. So construction traffic can't come or go through Timber Oaks.
Barbara, can you clarify the statement you just made? I think you said emergency access to La Madeira. Did you mean to say Nature Trail?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
I did. Conditional use criteria, site plan, we did provide the concept plan that's required. You've heard the traffic impact of C2 versus multifamily, so that's, and staff will tell you that's how they analyzed the transportation impact and the code requirement, whether we had to do analysis or not, depended on whether we were increasing our potential additional use of multifamily was increasing trips beyond what's already approved. So that code has been complied with. Signage, we meet the county's code regarding signage, and you've heard testimony about adverse impact. You've heard the presentation by your own staff about crime and walls. You've heard about need. The other thing I get the question on is age restricted. We are coming forward with a conditional use for multifamily, just like the one you approved for Hudson Ridge in 2005. That is what our application is for. We are not seeking age restriction. And to be specific about that, the seller of the property has restricted in the contract and will be followed through with a deed restriction that it cannot be senior housing. So, but regardless of all of that, we are seeking approval for multifamily use. This is about use and not users, so.
Correct. Okay. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Moore?
Actually, I know. Actually, let me let Commissioner Mariano go first, because he actually, I think, had something he wanted to say, then I'll follow up, if that's okay.
And I do have
Ideas, but.
I have a series of questions. Barbara, if you'd come up for a minute, just I want to ask. Yesterday we had our meeting. We made a phone call to the person who is the real estate person for the developer, and I asked the question: would you let it go senior housing? I think be much more agreeable to the people if we went that way. They were going to check. Did you hear anything back from them?
I worked on that till 7 o'clock last night, and the seller has said it's they're restricting it, so it cannot be a senior housing project.
Yeah. That's okay. All right, and that's pretty much. I appreciate that. Okay, now I'm going to go into a few things to talk about. So, when we look at the development, I really appreciate the board agreeing to have this special meeting. The timing was important with everything else. The traffic that is in that area is strong enough now. Timber Oaks a few years ago, when 52 was getting rebuilt, a lot of traffic went through Timber Oaks. It's probably increased only that. We took care of that whole area in there and paved for their roads, just like we did with Lake Bernadette, thought it was a cut through. Part of our network connecting to arterial roads. I think Nature Trail in Schrader, and I told the people after the meeting, I think one good thing that's come out of this meeting is we tried to do a paving assessment a little bit ago here, and because of the higher cost, it kind of got rejected by the residents. But I think coming up to this, there will be a lot of cut-through traffic if this apartment complex goes in, running down through Nature Trail, just like it will through Ponderosa and Timber Oaks. So the traffic is definitely going to affect what goes on there. People heading south, they're going to go that way. You can set the access however you want. There will be definitely an impact. So that'll be something we can look at. I'll bring it back up to the board coming up as far as how to look at doing the paving assessment. If this does go through, one of the things I will look to do is I've heard the developers speak, and they talked about if they were going to come in, how they would be paying about $800,000 in impact fees. Well, coincidentally, because it's a redevelopment site in the Harbors area, they're not going to be paying that fee. So whatever happens with this property, I want to make sure we tie into, if we do a paving assessment here, that per unit granted by today, if it does get granted today, or even for the future, that they do pay in their fair share for that paving assessment to 100% per ERU. Having said that, I don't want to get too far ahead of it, but when I look at the conditional use, and I listened to all the comments, and I was at both public hearings, and just so you know, as I went to the public hearings, I did not go to sit to the front of the room. I went to sit to the side or the back, and people were wondering kind of why. Each time it came up about, as far as my comments, why I didn't make early statements on, why I just kind of let the meeting go. I let the people know it's not my meeting, it's the developer's meeting, part of the condition. I don't want to affect the meeting, I just want to be there as more of a listening agent for my own information as I come before the board. I can tell you that the fear of the affordable housing project as proposed with the flexibility where affordable housing come in does scare everybody here. Now, when I look at the reasons that we could disagree with the Planning Commission, items number 2, the proposed conditional use will adversely affect or contribute to the deterioration to the quality of life or property values in the immediate neighborhood, I think is a very legitimate concern, which I agree with. I think the proposed conditional use on number 4, the proposed conditional use will create or excessively increase traffic or parking congestion or otherwise affect public safety. And I think number 8, the proposed conditional use will otherwise adversely affect the health, safety, or welfare of the surrounding community area. I think we've heard a pretty good description of the units, and I think of the property, what they think will happen. I think it's legitimate concerns across the board. I think if something did happen here, no matter what would come, if they would accept this senior, being senior housing, that's something I could get behind. But I do want to see that lighting along the property, all the way into the side on both roads coming in, does get improved. I do want to see that we kind of look at building that, whether it be a brick wall or a solid wall, something that can't be just climbed over or gone through and torn down, which we've heard about that can happen to the other walls. That 8-foot brick wall is something I think should surround the property as well. And, you know, I think when you hear about the Arch Angle, Arbor Villas that was right there is at 94% capacity, Hundred Ridge is at 97%. It's not that there's a fear whether they'll fill it, because obviously when people can get a break, they're going to try to find a way to fill it. I mean, when I talked to one of the ladies at the presentation at one of the meetings, talked about how she works and volunteers at St. Michael's Church, the amount of people that come from Hunter's Ridge, the affordable housing project they talk about, is really putting a hurt on the food that they give away and the assistance they look for. I mean, they look for electric bills to be paid. They look for other help they can get. And they have a hard time struggling just taking care of the people that are here already. So do I think we need more affordable housing? I can tell you it's affecting the church itself and what they're trying to do to try to help people. I think the use that was put out there years ago was not for multifamily, was done for a very good reason. It could use retail in 52. It would make more sense to put more affordable housing. I don't think helps the area. I think it's the appropriate use. Bad enough, I won't say bad enough, but they put a school in down by the way that actually affects Timber Oaks traffic a little bit more as well. I just don't want to add any more to it. The limited access that you hear about from both sides of the property, the problem with that, you could be directing from one side where you affect Timber Oaks more, or the other side where it's going to affect Bear Creek more. Either way, there's not a win, and you can't just direct everybody on 52. It's not designed that way. So with all the inherent problems with this, if the developer does not want to go to a senior housing application, which I think, as we talked about yesterday, they could do that. They still would have to get the landowner on board to do that. I think is a much more appropriate way than just the general affordable housing.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Moore?
Thank you.
Let him do that, Ronnie.
Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's funny you brought up senior housing, and it was brought up earlier too, because that's a suggestion I was also going to make. I think, the presentation kind of proved the point that I was making last week when we have certain markets and certain sections of the county that become oversaturated with apartment complexes, and this is proof that I think that this is one of those areas. Again, not the entire county. There's some areas along 19 that could be a good use. But I feel this area is becoming oversaturated with apartment complexes, whether it be low income or normal. It doesn't matter to me. But there is still a need for senior housing throughout Pasco County. Age restricted, I could call it. I think that's the proper term that we would use, right, David? Age restricted?
That's the term that's used in our code, that's
Yes,
correct.
okay. I just talked to Paige and pulled Paige aside too, just to reconfirm that there are waiting lists across the county in those age-restricted apartment complexes. So I think it'd be a very good use for the owner or the person coming in that would like to develop this property. It would have, now for the residents, it would have a much less impact on the residents in the community. It would also help with that kind of the continuity within your neighborhoods, in my opinion. You do have some people that are not going to be able to take care of the properties in their homes anymore, but they want to stay close to their friends. They want to stay close to their families, and they could stay in this community. Not everybody can mow their lawn every day. Not everybody can handle the maintenance, on a day-to-day basis once we get to a certain age in our lives. So I think senior would be really, really good there. I think it'd be great for the applicant. I think it'd be majority, I'm not saying all, but I think a large majority would probably welcome that there. So I think maybe just having that discussion with the owner again, because for the life of me, I don't understand why the owner of the property would want to put a condition that it can't be senior housing. I don't understand that, I guess. Well, hey, guys, you can't talk from the audience,
Quiet,
okay?
please.
Can't talk from the audience. Anyways, I don't understand why that would be. It just doesn't really make much sense to me. And especially when it's going to be rented out. I mean, there's such a need in this area. I had a couple other points I wanted to make too. Pardon me, I took a lot of notes when everybody was talking. I think the gentleman from the Catholic Diocese earlier said, there he is, okay. So he's not full either. He's not full right now. So the proposal that they're talking about bringing in, I think, again, that's another proof to me that the senior, or the age restricted would be a much better use for that area. Now, ultimately, along that frontage on 52, would we like to see office and the job creating, the ability of having a job creating site there? Yes, of course. But I think as a compromise, senior housing would be a good option for that area. So I would be willing to approve with the condition that this is age restricted, but only if it's age restricted. Okay, but.
Quiet, please.
So that's all I have now. Thank you.
Mr. Wells?
I'm confused. I met with Mr. Pitos and staff this morning, and did you not tell me that this is going to be 60% age restricted will be in this? That's what I thought I was told at the meeting this morning when we discussed this. The 60% of the residents would be seniors.
Correct. That's what I have. That's what we put down.
But I didn't hear Ms. Wilhite say that. She just said that she didn't really want to discuss who was going to live there, what types of is there going to be 60% of the residents will be seniors?
To be clear, Commissioner Wells, there's no condition in the
Yes.
conditions that require this to be age restricted.
Our applications for is for conditional use for multifamily.
I'm just telling you what I was told by staff this morning.
That's
so
shocking to me.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Shocking and disappointing, but
Okay.
it's not true. The application, and so we would ask, you need to act on our application. It's a conditional use for multifamily. It's a type of unit. It's a use.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Pitos? Just a quick question, and I know you brought it up about the crime, and you talked about the site plan and the sheriff's office and how you possibly could use them as far as the site plan process. I think that as a board, and I hope that everybody would agree, the sheriff's office needs to be involved with the site plan process, especially with multifamily, but I think with everything. I think even a large MPUD project, they should be involved with the site project to talk about safety features that maybe they recommend. I know it's something we probably need to discuss more as a board, but I think when you're looking at maybe the changes, especially with multifamily, that the sheriff's office, again, they need to be involved. I think they need to be involved with everything. I mean, with the growth, I mean, you heard the lady talk about how they can't respond or they're not responding. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but the sheriff's office, I think, could be a valuable asset to us to use for the safety and well-being of our no matter what the outcome is today. So just.
Right, I agree, and the sheriff's office is on our distribution list for the various projects. I'll have to go back and see if they actually responded to this particular project.
I don't think they are that involved, but I know they want to be, and I feel they should be, so.
Well, Commissioner, we added them to our distribution list recently to make sure that they got a chance to look at these things. Now, this one, again, there is no site plan yet. So there is no site plan
And I
review.
understand that, but I think we just need to look at the way we do things in the future to where they are involved, they are in the meetings. So maybe you can set up a meeting with Chris or Sheriff Naco and.
We've already worked with the sheriff. They are in the distribution list and are welcome to attend the meetings. Because they get all the documents, so.
I just think that they would like to be more involved, is my point. So we can discuss more, but thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Starkey?
Let's see here. So I have a number of questions. First of all, Bear Creek, what kind of project is that? Can some of my staff tell me? I want to hear it from the audience, or Barbara, if no one in the staff knows.
Not very well prepared.
I'm talking about the one where they said there was a lot of crime. Is there a multifamily called Bear Creek, or is that just the neighborhood?
I think that's the name of the neighborhood.
And that's single-family homes with a lot of crime?
I'm not familiar with Bear Creek at this point in time.
All right. This is called. Oh.
Barbara might have an answer. So.
Sure, they're single-family detached homes.
Has a lot of crime. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
just-
So
they're single-family homes.
this site is zoned C2. Can you tell me what can happen with a C2 zoned property?
Well, C2 zoning is your general commercial district, your main general commercial district, so you can have a number of general commercial uses within there. I think in Ms. Wilhite's presentation, she gave a just range. Right.
Okay, so this could be a grocery store, or shopping center?
Yes.
How many trips a day would be generated by a shopping center?
Morning, this is Hassan Khalil with the Planning and Development Department. We haven't looked at a shopping center per se, but I can tell you that in a C2, you could have a McDonald's go in. So we did look at a McDonald's for comparison. If you think of a McDonald's, by the way, the 144 units that we have talked about in the past, it generates 87 trips in the peak hour, okay? When you look at traffic studies, which we will be looking at time of site plan for this development, we get into substandard roads, we look at emergency access, we look at the type of access, we look at how many trips they're going to generate, do an access management study, which looks at which way the trips get distributed, left, right, whether the signalized intersection works or not, whether the turn lanes are adequate or not. All of that is looked at site plan. If you look at a McDonald's compared to which is a C2 use, to this apartment, like I stated, 87 trips in the peak hour. McDonald's type of a use will generate close to 500 trips in the peak hour. So they could go and.
So a multifamily there would significantly reduce the amount of traffic on the arterial collector roads versus general C2 development.
General C2 commercial will.
Which wouldn't come in front of us. They have
Yes.
that use by right.
And when you look at commercial use, when it goes in, it has a different, it attracts traffic from different areas. So if you have residential to the south, you will have more interaction with that residential, with that commercial going back and forth. So if the concern is that traffic going up and down Ponderosa or the other adjacent roadways, there'll be more traffic that'll be attracted to this commercial internally and from external network, obviously. The
It's almost seven times more.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a clarification
matter?
question on that? Because I think, are you saying that a commercial use has a greater internal capture and passerby trips than a residential use?
The residential use does not have a pass-by. The internal capture and passerby for a commercial type of a use is a lot higher, yes.
So commercial uses internally capture more trips from the surrounding neighborhood than a
Correct.
residential use.
That's the point that I was trying to make. So commercial will have a lot more interaction internally with that residential area.
So we have in the county a right-of-way preservation ordinance, and I know we have a lot of roads where we have a long-term plan to widen them. Do you look at these roads here, regardless of what comes in here, I'm hearing that there may be traffic issues on some of these roads, and I would assume that La Madera is considered an arterial collector as well as Ponderosa?
They're not considered collector roads.
Really? So no houses?
As far as I know, I don't.
There are no houses fronting on La Madera?
I'll have to check that. That's, I don't know if anybody has looked at in the other department. I don't look at right-of-way. But I would consider those as local roads, local collectors.
So if they were to be repaved, who would be responsible for paving La Madera?
If it's not a county collector road, then it is a paving assessment.
Well, I'm going to suggest that we need to look at those roads and see if they're being classified as the correct type of road. And we've done that in the past, Northwood, and other roads in the county have become arterial collectors. So,
Commissioner, Mr. Pito's just presented, and part of the findings of fact that was presented to you for this item, it talks about item number 2 under findings of fact, and it says 52, we already know that this is a state roadway, arterial, and it talks about La Madera, a 2-lane residential Pasco County maintained roadway.
so it is an arterial collector road?
It's county maintained roadway.
But it's a county maintained road?
Yes.
But a local county maintained road?
Yeah.
So, again,
That's PVAS.
if the road is not holding the traffic that it has, do we need to look at widening this road? I don't know this area very well and don't drive around in here very often, so I don't know what that traffic looks like. But this parcel is going to be developed, and we have incentivized development in the harbors by taking out some of the development fees. And now, I don't know how we can go back and say, now on this one use, we're going to put it back in. So I question the legality of that thought. But if the issue is traffic, then multifamily is going to have a lot less traffic. If the issue is crime, I'm hearing that this type of development screens the applicants, and there'll be people with criminal backgrounds are not allowed in here. If the issue is safety and we need more lights, I think we need to look at that. And if this is a county road, then it's the county responsibility maybe to put some lights on. So I will tell you, the other thing that was talked about today was funding. Since when do we ask any developer and care about where their funding comes from? I've never known that to be something that we base our decisions on, is where the funding comes. I do believe this is this type of project is a competitive project, and just like the multifamily that we're looking at on 54 and others, I think we have another one coming that came in front of us. They're all competing for federal funds, a small pot, I will tell you, compared to the need at the state level. And when I met with the applicant, he mentioned he was trying to build one of these in Hillsborough County, and he didn't make the list. I think it was number 15, and they only got to number 8. But I tell you that the need was so great that Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners, if I'm understanding right, stepped in and paid for a lot of it themselves. I know this is not my area. This is, I guess it's Jack's district. Yeah. But I can tell you in my area, I was looking for land for this developer to come try and to put some housing on, and I think we need more of this type of housing. I hear 40% of
Please.
40% of our residents could afford to live in here. And Commissioner Mariano, I would ask you, what is the salary of your daughter? I believe it's $28,000
That's uncomfortable.
a year. No,
Wait a
do you-
minute.
just, there are all kinds of people who could qualify to live in here, my son included, recent graduate from University of Alabama, doing his first job. So,
Yeah.
so I would be inclined to approve this, and he has to go through a competitive process. The state will see if this is a good location and a good project. And 90, I would be fine with the restriction to 90 units. And let me see if I left everything, I got everything here.
I think you have to keep in mind that this is a conditional use, and then the site plan, lighting, and roadways, and those things are going to come up during the time we do
I'd like
site
to,
plan.
if you
Yes,
would
sir.
allow me, sir, there was discussion about substandard roads. Okay, just from a visual inspection, La Madera does not look a substandard road. Nature Trail may be a substandard road now. If you do approve this conditional use with a restricted emergency access only to Nature Trail, then the way our code is written for substandard road improvements, the project has to be putting trips on that section of the road
Right.
for us to hit them for improvements to that road. Now, if you just make that Nature Trail an emergency access only, then per code, they're not really putting any trips on it. So substandard road does not apply to that unless it becomes a condition of the conditional use that you're approving, that they will contribute towards improvements to that, then that's a separate incident. So I just want you to keep that in mind.
So before
Thank you.
Mr. Coyle sits down, can I ask him a question?
Yes, sir.
Could you have him address the difference in trip generation between senior housing and general multifamily apartments? In other words, age-restricted apartments versus general multifamily apartments, what's the difference in trip generation?
I don't have specific numbers, but generally speaking, ALF type of assisted living facility type of uses, we all know that it generates a lot less than the general apartments. So apartments generate less than, some people think doesn't make sense, but they generate less than single-family units. Single-family residential developments generate more traffic than actually apartment units, and then ALFs, senior living, generates less than that.
Right. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Moore?
And on this might be a question, I was just borrowing Mr. Steinschneider's computer a second ago. I don't know if anybody in planning can answer this question promptly or not, but if you look at about a 2-mile radius along 52 in this area, how many MF zoning entitlements are there currently along that corridor? And I would also ask, are there any entitlements in the C2? Any of the properties are currently zoned C2, because some of them won't have MF entitlements. So I looked at a map, but there were so many, it was hard to count.
Yeah.
So in terms of multifamily along the 52 corridor?
Correct.
There's a number of them to give you off the top of my head. I wouldn't be able to, but just from the aerial images in the surrounding area of this property alone, there were at least 4 or 5.
And they already have the entitlements.
Yeah, they're built.
Again, I'm just going back to my statement of when enough is enough when it comes to these MF
Right.
entitlements, zoning entitlements that were given out.
And just to be clear too, the C2, the conditional use typically uses MF1, MF2, and so on standards in order to establish the multifamily within the C2.
So some do, we're just not sure which ones they are without digging
Right,
into it a little deeper.
C2, whereas on the zoning map, if you see an MF1, it's MF1, MF2 is MF2, et cetera. In the
Right.
C2, you might have the C2 there, and the multifamily that's within that C2 be an MF1 or an MF2.
But it's not going to show up on the map as an F1 or F2, right? So there could be multiple. So if we're saying there's 4 or 5 within a mile radius, there in reality could be more. We don't know for sure, but there could be more.
Commissioner Mariano?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whether this gets help from the federal or state government, I will tell you that I will not support just a regular affordable housing project coming in here. We're talking about other land that we can go look at. I actually brought this up yesterday at the meeting too. The property down at Leisure Lane, that would be a move up for that area if we could have affordable housing right in there. I would think that would be a great place to go. I think Habitat for Humanity would love to give up some lots to go get some affordable housing, and that would definitely help the area. When we look at right in this area as well, there's a lot of housing in the area for residential. Bear Creek's a nice neighborhood, Timber Oaks is a nice neighborhood. They've got, the Arbor Villas is right there, Greencastle's right there. I think they've already set this property up correctly. Bethlehem Apartments, right in front of the church, which was approved a while ago, is at 100%. It's a senior project. They're at 100% occupancy. Whoever would come in here with senior housing would fill this up at 100% because there's a waiting list over there. So as far as if you want to talk about picking a demand need that was there, the best demand right now is that senior housing project to match up with Bethlehem. And that would be, again, very applicable. As we know, families will drive more trips in senior housing. When I look at places like Banyan Apartments right on US 19, no issues whatsoever there. When I look at other projects that was done in Ridge Road, tucked in behind an industrial area, no trips in there whatsoever. I mean, literally, those people, they just don't drive that much. When I see an apartment complex like Gulfview Mall coming in, where they're going to revamp the mall, that is classic redevelopment. Those things aren't being subsidized at all. They're building granite countertops. That's going to add to that area. That's a good positive. This, I think, would be a complete detriment to Bear Creek and Timber Oaks, and I'm going to move for, unless the developer wants to say that they would accept a senior project, I'm going to move for denial. I don't know if you want to talk to that. If it's senior, and I'll even go as far as 144 units, I can support it. But if you're going to go just the way it's submitted, I'm going to make a motion to deny.
We could put a condition on it, so you can approve current with.
But I need to have their support if I'm going to get the conditional use.
So Barbara Wellhite, for the applicant. So we have an application that's pending. We'd ask for you to act on that application, which is for conditional use for multifamily with no restriction, age restriction.
I'm going to move to deny staff's recommendation.
All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
So can I just, for clarity, is it for the reasons that were previously stated, non-compliance with criteria 2, 4, and 8?
Yes.
Is that your?
That is my motion with those criteria that I mentioned before, 2, 4, and 8.
One discussion real quick, Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Wells.
I'm all about multifamily. I'm all about giving folks, affordable housing. I mean, I know there's a need. We've seen the need, but my confusion is staff, and we know senior living, yes, we need senior living, but why staff's telling me that, we agreed to 60% or the applicant did, and it's not the case. So I guess at this point, I would agree with Commissioner Mariano that there needs to be some senior living, a certain percentage in this project.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Under discussion for 1 second.
Okay.
Could you remind me what 2, 4, and 8, 2 is the traffic issue?
No, 4 is the traffic issue. 2 is that it would adversely affect or contribute to the deterioration of quality of life or property values in the immediate neighborhood.
So are we under findings of fact or what? Because when I'm looking at findings of fact, 2 is access. So am I on the wrong page?
No, this is the required standards for conditional use. It's just different attachment in your agenda.
Okay, so 2 is adversely affect, okay, and 4 is
Too
much traffic. So are we going to allow any C2 development there? So how can you possibly?
C2 uses are permitted as a right.
Yeah,
The zoning is already C2. That's allowed as a right.
It's already allowed. What we're denying is the conditional use.
So allowing a project that would bring less traffic, no, denying a project that would be bringing less traffic.
Commissioner Starkey, I'm not sure that's what the testimony was. The testimony was that, yes, from trip generation standpoint, it would be equivalent or less, but Mr. Cleel did testify that commercial provides greater internal capture and passerby traffic. So I don't think it's accurate to say that it generates less traffic.
Well, well, would it, if it's internal traffic, would it be more traffic on La Madera and Nature Coast?
What he's saying is that a commercial use attracts more trips
So it
from.
puts more roads on the internal, more traffic on the internal
It
roads.
allows the neighborhood to then
They're gonna travel.
use that commercial business, as opposed to driving elsewhere to use a commercial business. It's internally capturing the trips of the area. A residential use generates trips. It generally doesn't internally capture trips. And if we need Mr. Cleel to get up and testify again, I can have him do that.
I just think that's backwards.
I don't think that was his testimony. I want to be clear, I don't think his testimony was that it uniformly generates less trips. But we can call him back up and he can clarify that.
I'm confused on that. I
Well,
wouldn't
he's just
mind.
saying if there's McDonald's there, you're gonna draw traffic from all the residents. You cannot speak, I'm sorry. So,
So we can get Mr. Khalil to come back up and he can clarify exactly how the trip generation works between multifamily and commercial.
okay.
Because I think that the issue is the internal traffic.
You're right. Ponderosa and Nature Trail and roads as such will have more traffic on it because that residential will be interacting more with the commercial use, yes.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that he can cite number 4 because it's doing the opposite.
Well, but what he's saying is that a commercial use.
That's the motion that's on the
Yes.
floor. If the
All right,
commissioner
but
doesn't
I
like
think-
it, she can
Yeah.
vote against it.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification on the matter that Commissioner Wells brought up with regard to the 60% of the project being age-restricted. In the findings of fact, in the agenda memo, there's no indication that that the project would be 60% age-restricted. So I'm not sure why the representation was made that 60% of the project would be age-restricted if it's not in the findings of fact. So I'm confirming right now that it's not going to be 60%, and apologize for the confusion.
Your team told me that, so, okay.
Correct,
Thank
and
you.
and I understand.
Well, I get it, we all make
Okay.
mistakes, it's fine, so we're good, thank you.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Like sign, say aye.
No, say no.
Hmm?
You said
Nay.
like sign, say
Like sign, say nay.
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 2 nays.
3-2. Okay. Next item, you call this a walk-on or?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I understand that there's a commissioner that wants.
Quiet, please. Quiet.
Still in session. I understand that there's one of the, Commissioner Wells wants to bring up a walk-on item regarding a surplus vehicle that you've all been distributed a memo.
That's correct.
Is your mic on,
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yep. His mic's on, I believe.
Yes, if everybody had an opportunity to read the
Mr. Wells?
memo. Did everybody have an opportunity to look at the memo? As I believe you all know, I sit on the Volunteer Way Board, and the Volunteer Way last week, their cargo van is out of commission indefinitely. So Lester called me and asked me if we had anything in surplus that we could donate to the Volunteer Way to help them, help those in need. So that's why I'm bringing it to the board. There is no funding required in this. I would just ask for your approval to donate this van to the Volunteer Way. And with that, that's my motion.
Second?
Great.
Good idea.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for the vehicle. cargo
Declaring
van.
surplus, yes.
And
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
declaring
you-
surplus.
you declared the emergency to take this item up first?
He
That
did.
would be the first, okay.
He did.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Did we vote on that?
We are right now.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chairman. He's helping me. All right, that concludes this portion of the meeting. We go to regular item 1, and I need to read this.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
So, Commissioners, you had, assuming that this item, I think, would be over much earlier than it was, had agreed to have a litigation assessment meeting following this public hearing. Is it still the board's desire to go forward with that?
I got it scheduled at noon. My schedule's fine.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
Mr. Chairman, I desire the advice of the Board of County Commissioners concerning the case of Diane Therault Kobernick versus Pasco County. And Bonnie Banky, case number 51-2016CA3484WS, Florida 6th Judicial Circuit, to discuss settlement negotiations and strategy related to litigation expenditures, and for that reason, I request a private attorney-client meeting. If the board approves, you should open the private attorney-client meeting and announce the commencement and estimated length of the private attorney-client meeting and the names of the persons attending. At the conclusion of the private attorney-client meeting, the board's public meeting should be reconvened and should announce the termination of the private attorney-client meeting. The entire private attorney-client meeting will be reported by a certified court reporter, and the transcript thereof will be made a public record upon conclusion of the litigation. I estimate that the attorney-client meeting will last approximately 60 minutes. We have scheduled a certified court reporter to be in attendance in the Commissioners' Conference Room for the private attorney-client meeting.
I hereby announce the commencement of the private attorney-client meeting of which the board will discuss settlement negotiations and strategy related to litigation expenditures in the case of Diane Kobernick versus Pasco County, Florida, and Bonnie Binky et al. Case number 512016 CA 3484 WS, Florida Circuit Court 6th Judicial Circuit. The names of the persons expected to attend the private attorney-client meeting: Chairman Ron Oakley, Vice Chairman Mike Moore, Commissioners Jack Mariano, Mike Wells, Catherine Starkey, the County Attorney Jeffrey N. Steinschneider, the County Administrator Dan Biles, David A. Goldstein, Chief Assistant County Attorney, Vicki H. Spiros, Senior Assistant County Attorney, and a court reporter. The estimated length of the private attorney-client meeting is approximately 60 minutes. The private attorney-client meeting will now commence in the Commissioners' Conference Room. Thank you.